Konnichiwa! Hello, my name is Rachel and I have just returned from a 2-week trip to Tokyo, Japan. It was my first time ever going there, and I've put together a list of 18 travel tips or hacks that might help you if this is going to be your first time traveling to Tokyo as well. There are a lot of questions that you have whenever you're preparing a trip, and so I've compiled a list of the things that I observed or just tips and bits of information that might help you. So here I am in the airport of Philadelphia, and we are about to go embark on our trip to LAX airport in Los Angeles, California. For our first leg of our trip, it's about a 6-hour flight, and after that we will have a layover, and then we will depart for Haneda Airport in Tokyo. Depending on where you are located in the world, traveling to Japan can be a very, very long trip on the airplanes. In the beginning, I was pretty concerned about would I be able to be awake for 30 hours. I was wondering if I'd be able to handle that. I don't always have the best posture. At the last minute, my husband got a notice saying that there were 3 seats still available in the business first class. And so he upgraded, which enabled us to fly over just one leg of the trip. Not the trip from the East Coast to California, but the trip from Los Angeles to Tokyo. And so that flight was going to be almost 12 hours, 11 hours and 40 minutes. And so my husband went ahead and did that. I have only flown first class once in my life before. That was from Frankfurt. And so this is not a normal thing for us. So we were super excited to see what this would look like. The first leg of our trips began in the evening. So we arrived in Los Angeles pretty late at night, and our flight out of there was going to be in the wee hours of the morning, like 1:30 or something like that. So that's why my husband chose to go ahead and upgrade. We would have already been up for an entire day. When we got into first class, it was amazing. They had seats that lie down completely flat. There was a rolled up mattress that you could put on top of the seating, which made it extra plush, as well as a very nice quilt blanket. We had amenities to the side of all kinds of little things like an eye mask, footwear, sleepwear. They offered us pajamas, which I didn't take and I probably should have, but I was like, would I wear pajamas in front of all these other guests? We had a wonderful meal, and I watched a Skillshare video, which was really fun. And after that, I decided to go to sleep. Where I live right here, Japan time is 13 hours ahead of what the time is now. So for example, if this was 6 p.m., it is 7 a.m. in the morning over there right now. So that was the flight going over. So the flight coming back is much shorter. For some reason, the flight is about 9 hours and 40 minutes, which is much more tolerable. So we didn't fly first class, we just flew regular economy, and I found that it wasn't really a problem. I didn't really fall asleep, even though I was extremely exhausted, but I felt pretty comfortable. Getting back to my point, the flights to Japan can be extra long, so I suggest that you bring 2 very important things: a travel pillow and an eye mask. An eye mask really helps you to block out the light if they have the lighting on, and helps you be able to fall asleep. You could also bring some foam earplugs. I've done that before. This time I didn't actually wear them because I didn't feel the need to. But this travel pillow is a new one. In the past, I've used the U-shaped pillow that you blow up, but I had given that to one of my kids, so I bought a new pillow of a different shape to see how this would work. Now I want to show you how quickly this one blows up. So in 4 quick blows, this pillow blows up, and it has a Velcro here at the neck. It's a very tight Velcro, so I find that it's really hard to get undone. And you wear it around your neck. It has slopes there on the side, and you can close the front support like this to keep it secure around your neck so that your neck doesn't wobble to the right or the left. And so this really helps support the neck. I wore this pillow for quite a few hours, and then I felt like it would be more comfortable to hold the pillow. I used it in my lap kind of like this to hug, and I found that a lot more comfortable for me for some reason. So just want to let you know that this is one of the pillow options. I think it was good, but this little portion in the back made my neck stick out a little bit, and I think I actually would choose the U-shaped pillow next time that I fly. The other thing that I wore that really helped me were compression socks. I bought a pack of 3 so that I could share with my husband and my son, and it came in different colors. You can buy them in just about every color of the rainbow. And I put these on right before the long flight to Tokyo, and I'm so glad I did because my feet didn't feel puffy at all. So I recommend getting some compression socks. The next tip is before you go, Visit Japan Web. It's called Visit Japan Web. It's a website that you can go in. It's a government website that you sign in. You have to take a photo of your passport and tell the dates of your arrival, how long you're going to be there, and basically they'll issue a QR code the day before or the 24 hours of you arriving, and then you can take that QR code when you get off the airplane, and it makes it faster for you to go through customs. I forgot to get the QR code the day that I arrived. However, I had already entered my document information, so it didn't really take much time at all to go through. But that is one thing that a lot of people do use, and they even mentioned they're kind of moving away from the paper, the physical paper copies of things to sign in on the airplane, and everything's moving electronically. So you might want to do that before you go. The third tip is to learn the phrase konnichiwa. Konnichiwa is the Japanese word for hello, and you'll hear it just about everywhere you go. The other phrase that is extremely important to know is thank you very much. You will always hear Japanese people say, arigatou gozaimasu, arigatou gozaimasu, arigatou gozaimasu, or sometimes you just hear gozaimasu, and they say it very sweetly, and they kind of trail off, and they emphasize the mas. I learned that phrase when I was there, and I used it all the time, so many times every day. So those are the 2 phrases that I would suggest you learning. The next tip is about visas. You don't need an extra visa to go to Japan. If you bring all you need to do is bring your passport, and they will stamp a tourist visa for you. Now, if you are a student going to stay in Japan or work, that's a totally different story. You'll have to check with your own consulate to see what you need to do. But for regular visitors, you can just go with your passport. You don't need to arrange anything in advance. Our son, who was going there to be a student at university, he did have to get a student visa, and he also had to report to the municipality where he would reside. And we actually tried to do that after we arrived, but you have to first move into the residence and then go and get your visa stamped. So my son is staying with a host family, so his host parent went with him, and basically it was more about her having to reply that yes, she is accepting this person into her home and that she is the guardian per se for the certain time period. So we took care of all that, and you need this pass stamped within 14 days of coming into the country. Otherwise, you'll need your residence card stamped in order to get a bank, to get your national health insurance, and a Japanese phone number as well. The next tip is about money exchange. There are money exchange places at the airport. We flew into Haneda Airport, and we had heard that the rates there were very good, so we went to check it out, and yes, indeed, they were literally like the very rate at that moment in time, so we chose to go ahead and do that. I know there are also ATM machines which charge a small fee to exchange money, but we had no problem doing it, and they give you quite a large amount that you can exchange. The amount that we got was this. Each member of your family who is traveling can exchange that amount when they go, and that's the total amount that they can exchange for the time that they are there. The goods that you're bringing back, in our case into America, cannot be more than $800 US dollars. So that was plenty of money for us to exchange, which went for all of our transportation needs and for our food, which food ends up being quite a lot. Another thing I want to mention concerning money is that there is a lot of tax-free shopping that you can do whenever you are a tourist there in Japan. And a lot of the larger department stores actually have, they're set up to be able to go ahead and take the taxes off your purchases if you show them your passport. So make sure you bring your passport with you whenever you're out and about, which you should do anyways. And then when you ask them, do you have tax-free shopping, you can show the passport and they can already remove the taxes, or they'll send you to a certain counter on one of the floors of the department store, and they will ask to see every good that you brought. They will check it off very thoroughly, and then they will give you the tax dollars back that you purchased. The next tip has to do with phone service. We Americans love our cell phones, and as a tourist, it's one of the most helpful things that you can bring with you. However, international cell phone service plans can be quite expensive and pricey whenever you're out and about. So I ended up ahead of time doing a little bit of research, and I decided to rent a pocket Wi-Fi. Now, pocket Wi-Fi is basically just like what it sounds. It gives you a little device that your phone will log into as a Wi-Fi device, and therefore you're not charged any roaming charges, and you can make calls, and you can receive texts and text out and emails and phone services and surf the internet, use data, and it doesn't cost any extra. The pocket Wi-Fi devices I find are extremely reasonable. In fact, we rented ours for the 14 days that we were there for a total of $72. That I find is amazing, because I know that, for example, Verizon service is $10 a day, and if we had done that for 14 days, that would have been $140. But instead, this was half the price, and it worked amazing. Like, we didn't have any dropout areas. I highly recommend this. I do want to say that they want you to rent this ahead of time, so you do need to do this before you go there. And they have a pickup counter where you can go pick it up even if you're there at odd hours. Our flight arrived at 4:30 in the morning, and we did have to wait until 6:30 to pick it up, because that's when the counter opens, but they stay open late as well. And then when you want to return it the day of your flight, they give you a pre-addressed envelope to put all of the pocket Wi-Fi items in, and then you just drop it into a red postal box. You don't return it back to the counter, but you put it back in a red postal box, and it gets taken care of. The other thing that comes with the pocket Wi-Fi is a tiny charging cable and a battery pack, because using pocket Wi-Fi can drain the battery of the pocket Wi-Fi or your cell phone, so you can use it either way. I found it amazing. It comes in a little zipper pouch. It did add a little bit extra weight to what I was carrying around, but it was so worth it and so valuable because I used it all the time. The next thing that I highly, highly recommend are a few apps when you're there. The first app that I recommend is Google Maps. You need Google Maps to get around. I think that Google Maps has come so far, and they also have something called a live view feature. So where's my cell phone? So there's a live view feature that basically, when you go into Google Maps, let's just say we want to go to, we're in Haneda Airport, we say directions, starting point, let's say we were at the hotel there where we stayed, options. These are all the transportation. There's something called live view that when you're walking about, when it says walk, you can push, it says live, you push that, and then you hold up your camera and it will scan for live view, and it will tell you which direction with some giant white arrows outlined in blue, and it tells you which direction to walk. Live view works pretty well, but it doesn't work very well underneath the ground, like in some of the underground stations. So in those situations, I always asked, there's always an information counter right through where you scan your pass, and those are the people that you want to ask, and they're very helpful. Not everyone speaks English, but a lot of people do, and so they can help you there. The other app that you want to have is Google Translate. Google Translate is really wonderful, and I used it so many times. And basically, you select the language that you need. So I said English to Japanese or Japanese to English. You push this little area to switch it back and forth. And then the other thing is you can use the camera view. So I want to find something that's written in Japanese, and let's look at it. So I've got this little brush here, and I want to push the camera button here on the phone and hold it above. And this says this is a me cleaning. It's a tube brush. Where did it go? Water bottle gap cleaning brush. It alternates. This says crevice brush, remove the backing, and it basically reads all these words here, and sometimes it will alternate a couple words that are synonyms, so you get the point. I find that this Google Translate thing, this live camera view thing, works amazing. We used it for a lot of restaurant menus to find out what we were ordering. And we also used it to ask directions of people when we were a little bit lost. We asked it just to ask funny questions to people. We had a lot of fun with Google Translate. And the third app that you might be getting would be a travel app, and the one we chose was Pasmo. As a visitor to Japan, you have the option of purchasing a visitor transit card, and there are several big name ones called Pasmo, Suica, and IC. And you can buy these at the airport, and it lasts for 28 days from the day that you purchase it, and they come for a reasonable fee. They are having a shortage of chips, and the one guy there told us, you might as well just get an e-card because you can reload it and you can use it at the konbini stores, which is where you can purchase food. And so we decided to get the e-card and download the Pasmo app. The funny thing is once we downloaded the Pasmo app, here it is, it's got this cute little robot head. Let's let it open up. Oh, I'm not getting any stuff. So it comes up with this whole Japanese menu that we can't read. And my son, who's just starting his studies in Japanese, he also couldn't read all of it, but he's like, oh, you can just hit the dismiss at the bottom and it comes up again, hit the dismiss and come up again, hit the dismiss. So to get this, basically you would go into your Apple Wallet. Let me go into Apple Wallet up here, and not now. And so you would go plus, and it says here a transit card. That's where you find it, and you hit transit card, and then you look for it. This is China, United States, so we're searching for Japan. So you scroll down until you come to Japan, and you have your options here, the IC card or the Coca card, and the Pasmo and the Suica. So you can choose one of those. So I chose Pasmo, continue, and it says transfer existing card. I don't want to add another one. I've already got it in here, so I'm going to swipe this away. But I go over here to Pasmo, and when you get one of these e-cards, you have to start off by putting in 500 yen worth of cash. You cannot start with a credit card. You can reload these later. There are machines right next to where you check in on the stations, and you would basically set your phone into them like this, and you can push English for the menu on the machine, and then you can feed your money in the amount of like 5,000, 10,000, 1,000, whatever amount you want to reload it. And trips generally cost, depending on how far you're going, anywhere from like $1, $1.50 to $2, $3, $4. So we used this so many times and had to reload it twice. But this is your go-to whenever you're getting around, and you can also use it in the vending machines or in the konbini stores. So get a Pasmo or Suica card. You can also use that visitor's card if you want to, but we really liked having it on our phones. You might ask, do you need a train pass? The main train pass is called the JR Pass. Well, it depends on whether you're planning to travel outside of Tokyo. If you're staying in Tokyo, you don't need that. If you're also just going on one trip and you need the high-speed train, you can also go to the ticket window and just purchase a ticket just for that destination. Depends on whether you're going to go to multiple places on your trip. If you're going to go to Osaka or Kyoto, then perhaps it would be worth your money to buy the JR Pass, but they're not that cheap, but they do pay off if you're going to travel around Japan. For us, we knew that we'd be staying in Tokyo with the exception of one trip that we made, and we bought some tickets, and it was pretty pricey to buy those tickets for 3 people to go to Mount Fuji, but the destination was worth it completely, and we had a wonderful time. Speaking about transportation, I want to talk a little bit about subways. The subway system is essential. It takes you everywhere you need to go. They basically reach far and wide. Often you'll have to walk a few minutes at the end to get to your particular spot, but we find that the subways worked really, really well. However, they're extremely complicated. And for people like me who literally have no sense of direction, it was at the beginning like an absolute maze. When we first were in the airport, we had to figure out which terminal did we arrive in. We were in Terminal 3, that's the international terminal. And we had to figure out where the monorail system was versus the subway cars. So we figured that out, and then you have to look at the lines because some branch off. So we ended up taking photos of the subway stations on the wall. And after we looked a little bit, we could figure out what the destination, the end result was. If you've been living in a state like New York and New York City or in California using metro systems for a while, then it's going to be easy. But there's more complication than that because the stations themselves have so many exits. They have the South Gate, the West Gate, the East Gate, or the Park Gate, the City Gate, and they have different names. And you've got like 12 stations. You've got 12 lines going on and in these stations. And so it can be very confusing because you've got the going this way and you've got the going the opposite direction. You have to really figure this out. And Google Maps, while it works really well, the times that we would ask the information desk, they would often tell us to take a train that wasn't even listed on Google Maps. And we're like, oh no, if we take this train, it's not going to show what our next point is because you'd often change trains 2 or 3 times. So I do recommend before you go to actually look a little bit at the subway maps and particularly do a little bit of research about the different areas of Tokyo that you want to go see and mark them so that you can plan your trip to make the best use of being in, for example, Shinjuku or Shibuya, so that you're not going back and forth. When you're over in a place and if you don't bring a laptop, when you use Google Maps, you can only put one destination on there. So I found myself wondering, is Nana's Green Tea in the same area as the Starbucks Reserve, or do I need to go to a different station? Is that near the Ginza 6 store? I had no idea what was close to each other, and so it made it very difficult to plan the trips without having my laptop to be able to put multiple destinations on my Google Maps. I do hope they fix that sometime. However, don't worry, because people are very helpful and they will try to help you if you ask them or use Google Translate to tell you. And we had people ask us as well, which was kind of funny because we're new here too, but occasionally we could actually answer their questions. And so I want you to know that by the middle of the trip, I was confident enough to take the subways on my own. I went out multiple times, having fun, going out for a couple of hours to do some errands. And yeah, I got lost, but I wasn't nervous. Tokyo is a very safe place. So I was able to ask people and get back on the trains that I need to. And you know what? I got to my destination. Speaking about subways, I want to also say there are some unspoken rules of etiquette there when you are riding the trains. First and foremost is the Japanese people are pretty quiet and they don't like you to be loud on the trains. So keep your peace and don't talk, and you'll find people reading books or something like that. Also, do not eat or drink while on the subway. That's just common rules, but don't pull it out. I found myself really wanting to drink because it was so hot. It was in the 90s the entire trip we were there, and the Japanese people don't really wear shorts. We saw a couple people wearing shorts, but they were generally tourists, and I had heard this beforehand, and I was really wondering whether or not that people wear long pants or skirts in 95-degree weather. Yes, it's true. I packed a couple pair of shorts, but I didn't wear them once. The other thing is that the Japanese people also wear subdued colors. I saw a lot of black, white, gray, and maybe some olive green. There's not a lot of bright colors, and I had brought a tropical looking dress that was like coral pink with all these flowers. I didn't wear it because I thought I would stand out too much. Over here, I don't care, but I didn't want to be like garish or anything. And speaking about the heat, the Japanese people might be more used to the heat than we are because they live there. But I did notice that the Japanese people would pull out a little handkerchief, and I saw these in stores all over the place. So I bought myself some at a train station, although I didn't use them while I was there because I didn't want to get them all dirty. But they sell them with beautiful embroidered pictures on them. And a lot of them have towel on the inside, towel fabric on one side and just cloth on the other. I bought ones without the towel because the first time I saw them, I was like, what's the towel for? I was like, are these like a washcloth or something? But anyway, I saw a lot of people, once I knew what they were, I saw a lot of people wiping the sweat off their face, their forehead, their neck, and stuff like that. So these are very helpful and handy. So I brought me 2 back. The other thing to note when you're riding the subway is you need to face other people. When you stand on the subway, if people are sitting on a bench, when you go grab the handle above, turn and face them. Don't turn your back to them because this is considered polite to turn and face them. Now the subway trains can get very, very crowded, and they will squeeze in more people than you think are possible. We were on the trains multiple times during rush hour, and we were standing by the doors and got pushed and squeezed back further and further, and I literally had people like this. In those cases, you're also supposed to wear your backpack on your front side. So when you're getting on and it's kind of crowded, just turn around, put your backpack on your front, and keep it that way. That's one of the other rules of etiquette. Subways also have special seats reserved for the pregnant women, the elderly, and for the handicapped. We didn't know this. In the very first subway ride, the only seats available were over at the end of one of the cars, and we plopped down relieved to have a seat beneath us. I looked behind me on the glass window behind me. It says this picture. There's no words, but just a picture, and it has a pregnant woman with a belly and a cane person and a person with like a wheelchair or other things like that. And I was like, I don't think we're supposed to sit here. So we hopped up and we stood and watched. Well, later on, we discovered that people do sit in these seats when they're the only seats available. However, if new people come in that are elderly or look like they need a seat, it's the kind thing to do is to offer them those seats. And we saw people doing that. As for footwear, the Japanese people like to be clean, and you often have to take off your shoes. We had to take off our shoes on a couple of occasions, and you want to have clean socks and socks without holes. I had wondered whether or not Japanese women wear sandals in the summer, and so I didn't pack my sandals. I'm the type of person that all summer long I live in sandals, and in the winter I live in boots. So this was hard for me to think of wearing socks in 95-degree weather, but I went with it and I brought a pair of shoes. I didn't even bring my big clunky tennis shoes because I was like, how do you wear big clunky tennis shoes with dresses and skirts, which I brought a couple just to be cooler. And I found that, yes, there were some Japanese women who wore like the big hiking type sandals, but not as many. But I saw that there were enough of them that I would be comfortable doing that if I go in the future in the summertime. However, there were far more people wearing socks and covered shoes with toes. So just keep that in mind. Another tip that I forgot to mention earlier is luggage storage. When we first arrived at the airport, we arrived at 4:30 in the morning and we couldn't check in until 3 or 4 p.m. in the afternoon. And we were thinking, what do we do with all of our luggage? I mean, we had 3 large suitcases and 2 carry-ons and we didn't know what to do. Then we saw a sign that said luggage transport. So we went and asked them what it would cost, and the cost wasn't prohibitive. However, they said that they couldn't guarantee that we would have our luggage that evening, that for sure we'd have it by the morning. And we were like, we've been awake for 30 hours and we can't access our clothes and we're sweaty and hot. That's not going to work. So we scratched our heads and thought, what are we going to do now? Like, can we go to the hotel, take our luggage and drop it off there, and then go around until we can get into our room? And then we saw another option for storing luggage, and we went to that counter and they were like, oh, just store your luggage here and you can come back and pick it up. So we paid for that, and the cost was, let's see, I'll have to ask my husband, I'll put it right here. Wasn't that bad. And we decided to go out and go tour a little bit and then come back and pick up our luggage. Yes, that meant a lot of rides on the subway, but hey, it worked for us. Another tip I want to say is that the hotel that we stayed at had laundry facilities. I was super excited about this because I knew we would need it. How do you pack 2 weeks of clothes in a hot climate and into one suitcase and have room for bringing back some gifts? So I went to do laundry, and it's a very tiny little machine, but I could wash some clothes, and I found that it washed cold, which means that nothing would shrink, which I was super happy about. And it had an automatic laundry detergent dispenser. So I had brought 2 packs of Tide with me, and I used them anyway to add some nice fragrance because I think it was unscented what they had in there. But I washed the laundry, but the dryer, when we put the clothes in the dryer, we had to put it for 90 minutes and it was still quite wet. Just know that you don't have to feel like you have to pack everything into your suitcase. You likely will have laundry facilities as we did. Another tip is that driving in Tokyo, the steering wheel of the car is on the right side, not the left side as in America, and they drive on the left side of the road, not the right side of the road. This is really odd for us. It's probably no problem for people who are in England, but for us, we're like, oh, does this mean we have to walk on the left side of the road? And yes, actually, you'll see most people walking on the left and not the right side. So we had to keep reorienting ourselves to this. And particularly on the escalators and getting off in the subway stations, people walk off to the left, and you need to stand on the left of the escalators and let people go quickly on the right side. Another tip is, because of the heat in summer, we saw so many people carrying around these portable fans. They have a charging port here that you can recharge them, and so we bought a couple fans, and they have 3 speeds, and they work really, really well, and they really do help you when you are just boiling out there in the hot sun. For example, at the Japanese gardens, I pulled this out and used it to cool off, and I found it really, really nice. Speaking of heat, whenever it's hot, you want to stay hydrated, and I had wondered whether or not I should pack my water bottle. At home, I carry a water bottle everywhere I go. I put it in the car when I'm going to the grocery store because when I'm on the run is when I tend to drink. However, in Japan, they have vending machines on just about every corner at every train station in multiple locations, and they sell beverages. Primarily, the vending machines are water bottles and sodas or fruit drinks, and they don't cost very much. They might be around 130 yen to 250 yen, which is around 75 cents to $1.50. So water was available everywhere we went, and we found that we didn't need to have a water bottle while we're there, so you don't need to pack that. I did get one for one of my kids, and out popped something. I don't even know what it is, but I think they'll be excited about it. But but Japan is the land of vending machines, so they're kind of fun to come across. Another tip is when eating in Tokyo, you'll find that restaurants have a display easel board that has pictures of all the items on their menu. And oftentimes they also have a food display in maybe the shop window that has the actual plate with the food recreated in plastic. They look good, and you can actually see what you would be ordering if you ordered that particular item, as well as the portion size. So I found this very, very helpful. Literally every restaurant had this outside or in the window. Just know that when you're at a restaurant, you don't have to leave a tip like you do in America. In fact, if you left money on the table, they'd probably think that you forgot it and they would chase you down and give it back to you, because they don't steal or anything like that. So that's a nice thing, that when you pay at a restaurant, that's all that you have to pay. My list of tips wouldn't be complete without talking about the toilets in Japan. You've probably heard about them, but yes, the toilets are every bit as fancy as you have heard. In the airport, for example, we got there and sure, I trotted off to check out the ladies' room. The moment you go near the toilet, this rainforest water sound starts happening. It's like, and then there's all these buttons for like sprays of water. And I was like, I don't know about this. I think I need to learn how to use this. Another tip that I want to say is that the Japanese have this really neat custom of collecting destination stamps in their travel journal. Japan is known for their Traveler's Factory notebooks. This is an example of one. And people like to take their notebooks, and when they travel to, say, for example, Mount Fuji, they can get a stamp. We did travel to Mount Fuji, and I had forgotten to bring my traveler's notebook with me that day. So I happened to have a piece of paper with me. And when you go to Traveler's Factory in Tokyo Station, they have a whole tray of destinations and cities across Japan that you can stamp right there. But since I hadn't traveled to those, I did not stamp those into my notebook. But I did take one piece of paper and get the Traveler's Factory stamp there, which I'm going to cut out and put into my brand new Traveler's Factory notebook. Another tip is to make sure that you visit a visitor center in one of the stations. One of the visitor stations that we visited was in Shinjuku Bus Expressway Terminal, and the lady there was extremely helpful, and she talked to us for a long time, and she gave us this Tokyo travel guide in English. It is amazing. It is a wealth of information, and it groups things together by area, which is something that I didn't have when I was back here in America. And in fact, the little bit of research that I had done before I left was printed out in a Pages document, and I don't use iCloud to sync it, and I left it here. So when I got to Tokyo, I literally had nothing with me, and I had to rely on what I could remember of what I had looked up and what I wanted to see. The lady at the information counter basically went through this booklet with us and circled a couple of things, and then she highly recommended going on a walking tour. In the back of the book, there are a few walking tours. Let's see if I can find it. Let's see where they are. Here they are, in green. So she pointed out these walking tours and said that you have to arrange them a couple of days in advance. And so we decided we would like to take the Introduction to Japanese Gardens, Tea, Food, Craftsmanship, and Japanese Culture. And basically to do it, you have to sign in online to gotokyo.org. And they'll ask you which tour you want to take on which day. They all start at 1 p.m. And then you have to give a backup tour, and we chose the same tour for a different day in case the first one falls through. The people giving these tours are all volunteers, and the amount that you pay for the tour, I think it was around 1,800 yen. And at this moment in time when I'm recording this, 100 yen is about 70 cents of, 70 US cents. And so that was the cost of a tour, which is not bad at all. We had a wonderful host, two hosts, a man and a woman. They were just wonderful and answered all of our questions and took us on a beautiful, wonderful tour. And I highly recommend that because you get to talk to real Japanese people. They are so sweet and they can answer all your wonderful questions, and you get to know a little bit more about the culture. The last tip that I want to say is that Japan is a very safe country, and so you don't need to worry about anything. so you can relax and just enjoy your trip and have a great time. I hope you've enjoyed watching my tips to help you have an epic adventure to Tokyo. And if you can't get to Tokyo, well, I hope this has been kind of a virtual tour for you. And maybe you can dream a little bit about the time that maybe you can go. Or maybe it will inspire you to create some art that has something to do with maybe a travel map about Japan or Tokyo or something like that. So go make some art today and celebrate the life that you've been gifted. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Let's turn this one off, turn this one off, turn this one off, turn this one off, and turn this one off.